bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Yeah, man. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Wednesday, December 7th. 342 days into the new year, just 24 days left. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Tonight, Scott Wolter, America Unearthed, and the Oak Island map, and other meanderings. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom. Open lines all night long. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black, Jimmy Church Radio. You know what to do. Go follow, like, and subscribe. You can email throughout the show. I'll get to as many as I can. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. The sandbox for Twitter is hashtag F2B. Any questions or comments during the show tonight, use hashtag F2BQ. I will see them. All right. Happy holidays to all of us here at Fade to Black from all of our sponsors. Please visit all of them for great gift-giving ideas, including Life Change Tea. Go to getthetea.com. Use the promo code Jimmy when you order, either over the phone or online. You get free shipping. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Use the promo code F2B blend for 15% off of your order. Great gift-giving idea. All of the banners are over at jimmychurchradio.com, including Studio Dome and their Fade or Not special, TWS True Wireless Stereo, Bluetooth stereo system, hardshell case, $129. Great Christmas gift. Promo code JCRTWS, 60% off the normal price. And you're also going to get free shipping. Banners are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Zipa. Yeah. Stop snoring right now. I am. Just go to the banner right now on our site. It'll take you straight to zipa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com. Conscious Life Expo is coming up February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton right here in Los Angeles, California. We'll be broadcasting Friday the 10th, and I'm going to host the Ancient Aliens panel on Saturday. Just click on the banner over at jimmychurchradio.com for tickets and info. I say this all the time, but it's really just amazing every time that I do. Speakers include David Wilcock, Corey Good, Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, David Hatcher Childress, George Norrie, Mike Barrett, Nassim Haramein, Laurie McDonald, Jason Martell, Sean Stone, William Henry, Daniel Sheehan, Whitley Strieber, Daniel Brinkley, Laura Eisenhower, Del Bigtree, and Lisa Garr. Yeah, right now, click on the banners, tickets, and info. Let's get this show cracking. Yeah, right at 6:59 and 59 seconds, drop dead. Clicked on everything to kick off the show, and the studio went dark. Yep. Right at, to the second. To the second. Amazing. And that's how long it takes to reboot everything and get everything back up. But man. Strange? Absolutely. 2 computers didn't, 3 did. Very strange. Boom. All right. But we are here. We are live. Everything sound good? I hope it does. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Tom Waits is 67 years old. Burgers and fries. Jeffrey Wright is 51. And Jeffrey Wright is the guy that plays Bernard on Westworld, which concluded this week. The season concluded this week. Did you see Westworld? Did you see the conclusions? What did you think? I loved the series. So did Rita. Absolutely great series. Westworld on HBO. That's worth the watch. And we also just completed 11/22/63, the Stephen King JFK time travel series, which is on Hulu. We just completed that, too, last night. And I'd like your comments on that, too, as well. All right. On this day in history, 1941, that's right, December 7th, Pearl Harbor was bombed. 5 of 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, 7 other ships were sunk or severely damaged, and more than 200 aircraft were destroyed, 2,400 Americans killed, and another 1,200 wounded this day in 1947. Fact or fact, in February 2006, the phrase, and I'm going to quote here, "to understand and protect the home planet," end quote, that phrase was removed from NASA's official mission statement. To understand and protect the home planet. There you go. That was removed. Isn't that interesting? And that is a fact or fact. It's been vetted. Ah, yes. All right. You know, I've got ears, and my entire life was spent in the music business, and, my father's a musician, still is. And I produced a lot of stuff out there, a lot of bands and records and things. And my career moved into the music industry to the technical side of things, and I went to go work for a few different companies. Spent a lot of time at Alesis. Still miss those days. Went over to HHB, and I even worked for AMEC for a while, selling large frame consoles, mainframe consoles, and hung out with Rupert Neve and all that stuff. And I was looked at in the music industry as a guy that was at the cutting edge of everything. And it wasn't just me. It was an entire wave of people in the music industry that made the transition from analog to digital and from digital to digital and to where we are today. And I have a question for you. And I want you all of you to stay with me on this for a second, because this is very, very important. Because I know that you like being able to carry your entire library of music on your phone. That's what you do. That's what the world does now, right? I don't even know if people carry around MP3 players anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. That's what you do. And even on your computers, and you listen to your music, you search for stuff on YouTube. I get that, but there's a price to pay for that convenience in sound quality. And a new study has identified just what the characteristics of music you miss out on by listening to compressed music files. And in a nutshell, moody, mysterious, and negative tones persist, while positive and happier tones are the ones that are missing. They get trimmed. Now, in the report, I'm quoting here, according to our results, MP3 compression strengthened neutral and negative emotional characteristics and weakened positive emotional characteristics in musical instrument sounds. And that's according to Ron Moe of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Hong Kong University and their Science and Technology Department. Now, listen, and I'm being serious here. Musical instrument sounds, all of them, and voices vocals all have a distinct timbre or emotional characteristic. I talk about it all the time, the emotion of music. When audio of those sounds are compressed to form an MP3 file, those things, that emotion, those characteristics are changed. And some or most are lost. Now listen to me. That means an Eddie Van Halen solo may lose some of its happiness and start to show negative overtones. And that goes for everything. Interestingly, though, the angry tone was relatively unaffected by MP3 compression. And that may have something to do with that growl-like tone that can result by low-quality compressed files. And I know you hear it. Most people don't care now. And I get that. And for an entire generation, that is all that they have heard is MP3. I have long been screaming about the loss of depth in compressed music files. But for me, that's not the real problem. The real problem is that we are preserving the future. It's what we are preserving for our generations to come. More on that in just a bit. But if you are a musician and you've created something and you know that the recording was 100% great, it has magic, and you can hear the depth and the emotion, and you love it. It's exactly what you wanted to record. You are happy. But the listener only gets 5% of what you've recorded. Are you going to be okay with it? Are you cool with that? Of course not. But there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. I grew up recording on analog tape. Yeah, even cassettes, analog. But in the recording world, it was 2-inch with half-inch masters and razor blade edits. You know, no Pro Tools, no computers to do things with back then. Everything was manual. And my ears got used to that warmth, the depth, because you study, you're a producer, you're an engineer, and you acquire the art of listening and knowing what you have. Everything was there. The magic. You could hear the room that the recording was made in. You could tell the difference between a concrete room and a wooden room, and carpets on the floor, no carpet on the floor, sound deadening materials or not, and moving microphones around and adjusting and just capturing the moment. You know, engineers and producers got really, really, really good at that. Today, all of that is gone. All of it. Now listen to me. CDs, store-bought CDs, all of them, everything have been converted. Those files, those 16-bit files, those files have been changed. They are not the original recording. It's not even close. It's not. If you did an analog recording back in the 80s and you did it on tape, then the industry started to change because CDs were being brought to market. CDs are digital. So then you had to convert that half-inch master recording to digital through converters and then create a digital file and go and make your CDs, right? Well, it's not the original recording. And back then, and this goes on for until today, the art of sampling and trying to get that digital conversion correct and make it sound wonderful and beautiful, especially back then with the lack of technology, it was not perfect. But ultimately, what ended up happening, and albums were less and less, and vinyl was less and less. CD was the only medium. So the only thing to save everything for the future was now dubious at best CDs that were copies of the original recording. And to make things worse, those, well, for a generation, that is all we have that is representing us right now. It's not the original recording. It's a whole millions and millions and millions of CDs that are representing us. But in the future, how are they going to be able to play them? Is somebody out there going to have a CD player? Probably not. They don't have them now. And let alone in 10, 20, 100 years from now. And the only thing that we have for the future archived are these CDs that really actually kind of suck. And just to make things worse, those degraded files are converted one more time now to MP3. And that's what's all over the net. So now you've got an MP3 file that's a copy of another file, and that's what we have today. And that's what we have saved. It's 2 or 3 generations from the original master recordings. And that's what we have for the future. What we have for the future is crap. That's what we've done. And there's not much we can do about it now. This is a really, 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 really big deal. When you convert an analog sound to digital, you are making a sample. You're making a sample of it. A sample. It's the same thing as taking a spoon and putting it into your spaghetti sauce and tasting a piece. You're taking a sample of it. You got to stir it up. Get all of it into your, but you're not. No matter how good that sample is, the sample rate, something is left behind. The lower the volume or in the background a sound is, it doesn't get grabbed. It doesn't get recorded at all. It's lost forever. I'll give you an example. Think about this. A cymbal, right? A cymbal, well, that cymbal decays. And as that cymbal decays in the background, it doesn't get recorded. It gets broken up and turns into aliasing and digital noise. That's why people listen to music differently today. It's all about the bottom end and the beat driving everything. That's because the resolution of the music, there's nothing else you can really hear. The warmth and the depth at the highs and all of it is gone. It's gone. This new generations of listeners today, they don't know the difference. They've never heard another type of music other than the MP3 stuff they've heard for the last 15 or 20 years. I know it's crazy. I get that. But I am absolutely alarmed about what the future, an entire generation or two of music that was created has not been preserved correctly. And the best that we have today, the best that we have, not MP3 files, the best that we have is 20, 30 years of these CDs that are bad anyway. And that's all we've got. That's all there is. And there's not going to be a way to play them back in the future. Who is going to have a CD player 100 years from now? They're going to look at those CDs and wonder what they are. They're not going to know. Think about that for a second. Since MP3 compression alters the sound, the resulting MP3 file is significantly smaller in size, and I get that, but that lossy nature of MP3 compression, the timbre is altered. To be more specific, all the frequencies are on 20K and around that and 20 hertz on the low end, plus a whole lot of everything else is just gone. It disappears. And that includes the emotion, the feel. So it's the best that we've got. Save those CDs. Don't throw them away. Those MP3 files on your computer, they're worthless. That's it. It was all done to save space, and we don't need to save space today. So what do? We got to go back and resample everything, every single recording ever done on half-inch tape and redo it, 24-bit, 48, 32, and try to capture it better and redo it again. That's not what the original artist intended for. But that's all we have. Strangely enough, vinyl. Years ago, I went and dropped, it was Van Halen 2, and I put the album on my record player that I'd plugged in for the first time in a long time. And I listened to Van Halen too, and I was like, man, this is stereo. Holy crap, listen to this. And I went, what? So I go and I grab my remastered 24-bit Van Halen 2 CD, and I put it on. And I listened, and it closed up. It nearly sounded mono. I couldn't hear the background. I couldn't hear the tone. I couldn't hear it. I was like, man, I've been listening to this for so long that I forgot what the original sounded like. And I went back to that vinyl, and it made me happy. My toes tapped. I was tapping my foot. And I went back and listened to the Van Halen CD, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't. And my foot stopped tapping. Think about that. You are welcome. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, the one and only Scott Wolter is here, America Unearthed. We're going to talk about the Oak Island map and the 90-foot stone. Remember that? He's got a new post up on his website today. Forgot about the 90-foot stone. We're going to do that too as well. Tonight, Scott Wolter. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. It's a holiday season with hope in the air. Things to look forward to and no time for despair. Health can be a challenge, and so can the mail. So Get the Tea wants to help you by giving you a sale. Buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month for free. No limit. That's buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month free. That's a savings of $35. Where? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Scroll down on the front page and find the buy 2, get 1 free ad. Click it and save. Orders over $100 get free shipping. Send the gift of life. Change tea at GetTheTea.com. We have many non-GMO organic supplements just waiting for you. This holiday season, enjoy health and Thanksgiving with GetTheTea.com. Want to call us? 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. GetTheTea.com is a proud sponsor of doing what's right. That's GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station where the Fade-or-Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Combat, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Tonight, Scott Wolter. He is here. Cannot wait. He's right here. I'm looking at him right now. He's actually here. He's an author. He's the host of History Channel's America Unearthed. And tonight we're going to share the story behind the Oak Island map. We've got some other stuff that we always touch upon, and I kind of pin Scott in the corner a little bit and get the answers out of him. Got to squeeze him a little bit, but eventually you get what you need. We're going to talk about his continuing research and discoveries that he's made over the last 15 years, of course, going back to the Kensington Rune Stone and the Hooked X. We're going to discuss why the Templars traveled so deeply into North America and left clues behind, and it's going to reach into the Oak Island map. And if you don't know what the Oak Island map is, I tweeted it out earlier. I told everybody, save it, because we're going to be referencing this throughout the show. Why? On that map, there's a Hooked X. Go and find it. It's right there. All right? And not only that, I don't know. Hey, Scott, I was reading your blog today. Welcome to the program, my brother.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. Always fun. Always fun.
Always fun. I saw your latest post today, and which, you know what? That right there, that's about a 6-hour discussion, too, as well. The 90-foot
Oh, you
stone.
mean that cipher?
Yeah, man. So let's get to that in a second. For right now, Let's relax. And my rant today at the opening of the show, because I know you're a cool guy. You know, you cool like steams off of your body. You're a cool guy. And my rant today was about music and the old days of albums and cassettes and the sound that we enjoyed, that made it made us happy. Music made us happy, or depressed. It was full of emotion and everything. Today, this generation is listening to MP3, converted, sampled down crap, and they don't get to enjoy what you and I did, growing up in the 60s and 70s and in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you notice the difference in the sound of your music in the collection? You listen to an MP3 of who's your favorite band, Scott? Who is your all-time favorite?
Well, if honestly, and don't, call me a homer, although I am, but if I had to pick one artist, I would pick Prince.
Okay. All right. And, right there. So go and listen to Purple Rain or 1999 or any of that stuff.
Actually, Jimmy, I'll tell you what. There's an album that Prince did that's better than all that stuff.
What was it?
Nobody's ever heard of. It's called The Gold Experience. And he did this when he first became the symbol. And what a lot of people don't know is that when he had that big tiff with Warner Brothers,
right?
He basically said, "F you, I'm going to create my own symbol. I'm not going to make movie as, quote, Prince. I'm going to make it as this other entity." But yet at the same time, while he was kicking out those albums for the symbol, which were, I think, some of the best stuff he ever did, as good or better than Purple Rain, he was still honoring the contract with Warner Brothers, and he kicked out 5 more albums for them too, and they were good. I wouldn't say great, but a lot of people don't realize that's something. He honored his contract. But if you haven't heard The Gold Experience, check it out.
No,
it's awesome.
I've heard it, and I'll tell you what's really strange that you bring that up. I lived in a condo in Sherman Oaks through that period, and my downstairs neighbor, not downstairs catty corner on the other side of the building, but the guy that lived below my living room, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My downstairs neighbor.
Yes, he liked loud music, huh?
His name was Femi, F-E-M-I, and he was Prince's producer and engineer through all of that stuff.
No way, really?
Yeah, so I would see him like every 2 weeks, right? He'd be coming home with some luggage, on a Saturday night. I'm like, dude, you're back. No, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, right? He's just coming back for clothes. And he'd go back to Minneapolis. And he did that that was probably 96 through 98, 99. through that whole period.
That was when he was just a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know this, but Paisley Park is like a mile and a half from my house.
Oh, is it? I've been there.
I actually lived across the lake from Prince when he first moved in 35 years ago.
Right.
But he's been a neighbor, literally a neighbor, for all that time. But it doesn't matter that he lived here. I loved his music. He was so good. Even when he was in high school, his first few albums, he was like a high school kid. Just amazing. And I'm still processing it. I can't believe he's gone, but his music will live forever, and that's a good thing.
Well, so if you went and listened, to those recordings back then, and go and listen to an MP3 version of it, you just go, wait a minute, But for an entire generation, they only know the MP3 version of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? And the other thing that's interesting is how vinyl's coming back.
Right.
And I love it because I got boxes full of albums that I'd put away a long time ago, and now I've cracked them out and I put them on there, and my kids are like, "Wow, you've got all these albums," and it's like we're hip again. It's that thing that, if you keep the clothes long enough, eventually they'll come back in style,
Well, and this is what I'm afraid of. And about preserving history, right? If you haven't been if you haven't been able to go back and save what you have found that has been lost over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 600,000 years, right? Well, in the future, and I'm talking about 20 years from now, 100 years from now, they're going to look back at this gap between 1990 and 2020. It's like the missing years of music. They're not going to be able to play a CD back 100 years from now.
I don't know. And I don't like to pick on too much on other, generations' music, because there's really great music in every generation and there's crap. I mean, let's face it. We had crap in the 70s and 80s. I think some of the worst songs that were ever made came from the 70s, and that's really when I came of age. But the one thing I will say about today's music, although there are some really good artists, it seems like they're not playing instruments the way they used to play them. There still are a lot of great artists that are playing instruments, but there's a lot more electronic stuff and a lot of it's good. I'm not saying it's not good. It just seems like true musicians are not as many as there used to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you're not
wrong.
It
seems to me.
You're not wrong, and I have said this, and it's funny that you put it that way, because an artist is an artist. So even if you are creating with electronic instruments and samples and a computer, you're still trying to paint a picture and you're trying to get the creativity out. And I get that. I do. But I'm still about guitar, bass, and drums, right? You got to stand up and play.
Yeah, me too, man. Yep, for sure.
You got to stand up and play a song. But to that end, what scares me is that the archaeologists of the future are going to go back and listen to us now, and they're going to listen to MP3s, and they're going to, man, this kind of sucks. Right? That's what I'm afraid of.
I don't know. I really enjoy listening to music, and I find myself throwing on vinyl more and more. I mean, I used to listen to it exclusively, but I'm going back to it, and I still say, even though the pops and the hisses and the occasional skip, it's just part of the experience. But the sound is really good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's go ahead and move on. But I will say this: the other great to come out of Minneapolis, the other black guy, Morris Day. Morris Day and the Time, man. That was
the Time. Morris Day and the Time. Whoa. I've seen him in concert, and actually he's been back here recently. I mean, not just for the Prince tributes, but he plays the casino gigs, and they still rock the house. I mean, Jungle Love is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Loved Morris Day and the Time. Okay, so now, let's start here. Let's just ruffle some feathers first, and then we'll get to the fun stuff.
That's my thing. Let's do it, baby.
I probe out there on the web to see what's going on, and you are never not the target of somebody. And there's the usual suspects, but there's the other ones that come out and try to instigate and try to troll. My friend, do you get tired of it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, of course, I mean, the thing about the trolls is that my blog, for example, I don't want to be one of these guys that all I want to hear is people who agree with me. I mean, it's really true. The only way that you learn something is by interacting with people that you don't agree with or people that have questions. The part that I take issue with is how nasty and negative and condescending and just how awful that some of these people are. They just have no dignity. They don't treat anybody with respect, and there's just no civil discourse. And that's the part, I guess, that's really disappointing. And I get mad at myself sometimes when I get caught up in it and I start, carping back at them or saying something to go after them. And, I have to really be careful before I hit send and say, hey, look, am I doing the same thing that I'm accusing them of doing? And sometimes I do, and I get disappointed. And I just wish that people would ask questions or say, I disagree, and this is why. That's not what I get. It's just criticism for the sake of criticism and personal attacks and that kind of thing. And I mean, I'm a big boy. I mean, you can call me whatever you want. And when you're done, do you want to talk about the issue or do you want to keep screwing around? And I do get tired of it, but I feel it's important to give even some of the trolls an opportunity to have their say, because you never know. They may have something of merit, and just because they deliver their message in a way that I wish they wouldn't do doesn't mean that they might not have a valid point. But I also would say that you may have a valid point, but if you come across like a jerk, even if your point is valid, it's not going to be taken with the same level of respect and seriousness than somebody who does it in a respectful way. And that may not be fair, may not be right, but that's the way it works because we're human beings.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. The trolling point, right? Whatever they're trying to make a point of, all you have to do is put it the right way and certainly say, you know what, dude, I don't agree with you, but at least we can talk this through. Right?
Exactly.
That's all you got to do.
And you know what? When people get overly nasty, a lot of times they just come on and they just want to tell me how much they don't like me or what a jerk I am or how stupid I am or a pseudoscientist or whatever they want to say, and that's all that they want to say. And that gets boring real quick. I mean, I might go back and forth with them once or twice, but if there's nothing productive that comes out of it, then done.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and this is what I find bizarre, is that those out there, and I can tell you right now, Scott, you know as well as I do, they know that you're on this show right now. They are listening.
Oh, yeah, they're going to listen. Are you kidding? They're going to listen to this, and they're going to pick on every single word we say, twist it around, and come up with some nonsense just so they have something to write about.
And I've invited them on this show, right? I've gone and said, hey, look, okay, I get that. So why don't we just talk about it? Come on. Well, I'm busy. I got stuff to do. Not this. You know what? You'll hide behind a keyboard, right? You'll hide behind that and wear that as your shield. But to just come on and just talk as a friend. Go. I want to hear your side. Why don't you want to hear ours? And it's just
they don't
really
know, Jimmy. Look, what you're asking for is something that they simply cannot do.
Are capable of.
The arguments that the people you're talking about have are not valid. They have no facts to support them. All they do is just argue the opposite point for the sake of argument. And, and I get tired of that because at the end of the day, there is an answer to the question that we're trying to get to the bottom of. It's either one or the other. And what they refuse to accept is that there will be factual evidence, or there usually is going to be factual evidence to support one position or the other.
Right.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't get, is that if the answer that you think, if the answer is wrong, how can there be evidence to support it? So how can they argue against something that does have evidence to support it? I use the Rune Stone as an example all the time. If all this factual evidence in all these various disciplines, geology, language, runes, history, all have evidence consistent with the conclusion that it's genuine, how can there be evidence to support the contrary? It can't exist.
Well,
so the arguments that they put forth against it are just, at the end of the day, they have no substance.
Well, that's exactly it. And if we listen to all of the guys that knew everything, we wouldn't be going more than 5 miles offshore now because we didn't want to fall off at the end of the earth, right?
You know what I love is when I talk to some of these people that are just absolutely against diffusion prior to Chris. You know, they would have you believe that there was a fence around the continent.
Right.
Nobody gets in or out.
Right. And, well, you know, like today, it was, I don't know if you caught this, but you can see it on our Twitter feed. But today, now check this out. One of the craziest days in human history was announced today, that fusion from water, creating plasma in a ball, the sun, in other words, recreating the sun in a jar, has now happened for the first time in Germany. They built a fusion reactor called the W7, and they brought it online. They ran their first test today. Boom. And so they just released the results in what other journal, Science, or one of the big peer-reviewed journals. And think about all, like the United States Patent Office, right? No fusion, don't bring it here, right? don't
Why
talk
not?
fusion.
I mean,
right?
is this going to be the answer to energy on the planet? Are we going to finally move away from an oil-based world economy? I mean, is that actually going to happen?
Right. Well, here, let me just check this out. This applies to you, my friend, because if these researchers had listened to everybody, right, we wouldn't be where we are today. But it's new test verify at Germany's Wendelstein 7X, so I call it the W7. The W7 7X fusion energy device is on track to safely suspend plasma in magnetic fields. In a study in the latest edition of the journal Nature, researchers confirmed that Germany's Wendelstein 7X W7X fusion energy device is on track and working as planned. Now, I mean, that is, we're talking about the fuel that's used in this fusion reaction, which is simple hydrogen. It's been extracted from water.
Water, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I mean, amazing. Well, and then now the trick is to put it into application. How can we use that energy in a safe, efficient way and start to change the world? Look, if they can do it, it's going to be absolutely huge. It's going to be huge, and maybe it'll reverse some of the damage that I believe is happening on this planet. I know some people don't believe in that, but yeah, we actually are doing harm, and I think the way we use energy right now is a big part of that. And call me a fool for believing in that, but I do.
Well,
this is great news.
Yeah, it is, and that's why you cannot listen to your critics. You cannot. You just can't. And if you do, if somebody says something to you in a negative sense and you let it get to you, it could be an out-and-out lie, or it could be rumor, it could be whatever it is. But if you let that hold you back, then you don't move forward. And that's it. And this example today of
exactly. I use it for fuel, Jimmy. When I get criticism in my world, when they criticize me, I know that I'm on the right track.
That's
and the
exactly
more criticism I get, the more I know I'm getting closer to the truth. And that may sound trite or whatever, but it's really true. And look, if I wasn't making a difference, if a lot of people that I work with were not making a difference, they just ignore us. So to me, the criticism is actually validation. And look, I'm not that fragile. I'm an old ball player. Are you kidding me? I've heard everything. Right. Bring it on, buddy. You want to tell me what you think of me? Guarantee I've heard it many times.
Well, they only criticize those that matter. And that's all I keep saying. That's it. If you don't matter, you're not going to get criticized because they don't care.
I hear you. You're 100% right. That's why I use it as fuel. And it really doesn't bother me. I mean, it gets old, and I get tired of trolls coming on my blog, but I'll listen to them, and they get a couple of strikes, but we move on. And we have a lot of fun on there, and, of course, you saw one of my latest posts with that fabulous map. And I'm glad you sent that picture. That's great.
Yeah, let's do that now. Let's kind of set this up because we've got two things that are important concerning Oak Island tonight. And for the uninitiated, if there's somebody out there that doesn't know what Oak Island is at this point, let's kind of start here, and then we'll set this up for the break. Okay? When did you first hear about Oak Island?
Oh, gosh, honestly, I don't remember. I think it's something that I probably heard when I was a kid on one of those, solving mystery shows. But I can't really tell you exactly when I first heard about it. But, when I started getting into the Templar research back in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2001, was when I first started hearing the legend of the Templars and coming, Prince Henry Sinclair coming over and landing in Nova Scotia and burying a treasure, and many people thought it was at Oak Island, and people have been digging there for all these years, and they haven't been able to find it, but they believe it's still there, the whole thing. So I probably heard about it a long time ago because I remember hearing about it shortly after I started going down the Templar road with the Rune Stone. But it already was in my head. I just don't recall the first time I heard it.
And when you did, because it's fascinating, and when your mind works like it does, you want to go investigate. But there wasn't that kind of information out there. It was severely lacking on Oak Island, which for me adds to the mystery, right? It's real. It's a real island. Were you surprised about the lack of research and what was going on?
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I know a lot more about Oak Island than I can say right now. So I just want to preface that. But if I go back to a couple of years ago when I first got involved, we did an episode on Oak Island. Well, actually, I went to the Midwest Plain, or it wasn't the Atlantic Conference, and I think with Steve St. Clair is the one that organized that, and I think that was it 2009 or 2007? I can't remember. I mean, it's been several years, but anyway, I went there to Nova Scotia, and there was a conference there, and I met Steve St. Clair for the first time, and this was basically a gathering of people that were like me, who were venturing into this this world that you're not supposed to go into according to the academics. There's a paradigm of history, and I was one of the heretics that was asked to speak at this conference. But it was only people he invited that he felt had done truly scientific research. And there were a couple of PhDs there. I know that Gunnar Thompson was there, Ben Olshan, who was a PhD, and some other people that were really qualified people, and some of them were academics. And this is where I really learned about the details of the Prince Henry legend. And actually, there was a chief, forget his name, of the Mi'kmaq tribe, some people say Micmac, who talked about the alliance with Prince Henry Sinclair in their oral tradition. This man that some called Glooscap, he called him Prince Henry Sinclair, had come there and interacted with his people, and some of the people that he brought with him stayed. and live with their people, intermarried, and assimilated. I mean, he just flat out said it. And that was one of the first times that I had heard from the natives' perspective. But I had been thinking about the native perspective for quite a while, because it just made sense to me that if the Templars had come over here, who do you think they would have run into?
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You're not going to set foot on this continent unless the natives let you.
Right.
So there had to have been some kind of a relationship to allow that to happen. And turns out there was. So, but anyway, this was sort of the general legend, and then as the details came out and I learned more, of course, Nova Scotia and eventually Oak Island comes up, and that's how I got into it.
Let's take our break right here. And when we come back, I'm going to do things backwards. I'm going to let the audience know now. The intention was the Oak Island map. But because there's this stuff on the 90-foot stone, and we're going to discuss that, maybe we should actually do a little bit of history. And man, what is that? A Rottweiler?
No, it's a little Dachshund.
A little Dachshund. Scott Wolter's the guest. When we come back, Oak Island, the Oak Island map, and we're going to discuss the 90-foot stone, and then we're going to do the map because we have to do it in that order. It's just the way that it is. Scott Wolter, when we come back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Kat Deely, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
How you doing? It's Jimmy here from Zipa. Today I wanted to tell you about my efforts to achieve global elimination of snoring. It all starts with respect. Respect for yourself and respect for others. Listen, you think you're being a nice guy or a nice girl by letting the guy or girl next to you sleep and snore every night. It's the ultimate disrespect to have that happen. You wake that person up and you tell them, go to Zipa.com now. ZYPPAH.com. We're not going to tolerate this, all right? Snoring is not okay. Someone next to you is snoring, you tell them to buy a Zipa. ZYPPAH.com. I know that you're listening to these snoring things and you're thinking, well, it don't apply to me. I don't have these problems. A lot of people are in denial, but it's true. Listen, if you're snoring, you got to stop it. What you got to do is get this fixed. Get a Zipa and change your life. ZYPPAH.com.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers. Well, yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Scott Wolter, author, host of History Channel's America Unearthed. Tonight we're talking about Oak Island, the Oak Island map, and the 90-foot stone. And he's got an excellent piece that he did. You did that earlier today, didn't you, on your blog?
Oh, no, on the 90-foot, no, that was a couple of days ago.
Oh, a couple of days
ago.
And
actually, my good friend Jerry Lutkin was a guest blogger, and he was the one that did that, that wrote that blog.
Okay, I don't know why.
About the 90-foot stone and the translation.
Yes, and so for those that don't know what we're talking about, they may have seen the show. Okay, out in Oak Island, up in Canada on the East Coast, a couple of kids found a site, went back home, got some shovels, went back. This is, 200 years ago. And it
was like at the end of this, it was like 1790s, I believe.
Yeah, 1790s. Okay, so 200 and, man, don't make me do math, okay?
Long time ago.
225 years ago. And so they get some shovels. They go back to the island. They start digging. They go back. They tell their parents what's going on. They're finding. So they go back. And they start digging, and eventually, over the last, and that's the origin of the myth, of the urban legend, and or how it got started, I should say. And eventually, a shaft was dug, and they got down to the 90-foot level. They're looking for buried treasure. Okay, that's the bottom line. And they find a stone, which I've just tweeted out the replica of the stone. And the history of the stone is interesting in itself. But they find this stone, and at the 90-foot level, that had a cipher on it. It was coded. And that stone was then moved in the 1800s. Some guy, we'll get to the particulars in a second, put it in his fireplace, of all things, and used it. And then that got covered up. And now and the stone is missing today. I don't know. Maybe Scott has it at his house in Minnesota. I don't know. But anyway, so
it's in my fireplace. Funny.
It's in your fireplace. And but this stone had a cipher on it, and it's been represented over the years, and it's been decoded, and those decodings have been decoded, right? A lot of people have taken a crack at this. And then you did, or Jerry posted on your blog, and that was very, very interesting. Now, all of this also comes back to the people living at Oak Island too, as well, for generations. So there's some mysterious connections here in the trail with the 90-foot stone. So I'm going to start with this. Is the 90-foot stone, do you think that it actually existed?
I don't know the answer to that. I will say that I'm skeptical about the 90-foot stone for a couple of reasons. One is I've got a problem with digging 90 feet in the first place on a glacial and moraine island on the ocean.
With shovels. With shovels.
I mean, look, glacial and moraine is basically sand and gravel and boulders and rocks, right? And water moves through that really easily, like super easily. So if you dig down below the water table, water's going to flow in fast and fill up your hole. So unless you have some high-powered pumps cleaning out, removing the water, I mean, what's the highest elevation on Oak Island? 20 feet?
Yeah, not much.
25 feet?
Right. It's a small island.
Feet?
Right, small.
Okay. Yeah. That means you have to dig, let's say it's 30 feet. That means you have to dig 60 feet below the water table to get down to 90 feet.
And it's on the beach.
Think about that for a sec.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It makes no sense at all. And the whole idea of flood tunnels, I mean, you don't need them. Water table will do it for you.
Right,
I mean,
right.
And I've always had a problem with that. It just doesn't pass the smell test with me. But I'm a geologist, and glacial quaternary geology is something that was one of my concentrations in school. I have picked agates for 35 years in glacial sand and gravel deposits. I know them intimately, and I know about water tables, and there's no way in hell I can see anybody doing that. And so I'm skeptical, to say the least. And the other thing is if you look at the translation that Jerry did, the problem with any message on any stone, anywhere, is that unless you know where that stone was at the time that message was crafted, it doesn't mean anything. Because if you don't know where to start, how do you know where to go? You know what I mean?
Right.
So if that stone was found in a shaft, then we would need to know what shaft, where exactly, what depth, and the location before any directions to wherever are gonna mean anything. So if we don't know where it came from, the directions are meaningless. Does that make sense?
Yes. And especially with this new, is translation the right word? I don't know.
Yeah, I think transliteration. I mean, it's a cipher. It's been decoded, and then it was in, I think, French is what Jerry translated it from, and then it was transliterated into French and then translated into English.
How do you say Jerry's last name? Lutgen.
Jerry Lutgen.
Jerry, I want to give
By
him.
the way, just so you know, Jerry Lutgen is a guy that I met a few years back. Actually, he contacted me by email. He was one of the guys that was working on the Talpiot tomb in Jerusalem.
Right.
You know, the tomb
that
the 10 ossuaries were found in that have names like Jesus, son of Joseph, and James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, and so on and so forth. But anyway, he was the statistician, the guy who did the calculations for the odds that these 10 ossuaries, the 7 inscribed with names, were not related to the biblical Jesus. And there's a lot of things that you have to do to make that calculation reasonable, and using all of the being as conservative as possible. He calculates it to about 1 to 2 million that it's not him.
Now,
anyway, that's who Jerry's, and Jerry's an analytical person. He's a really nice guy, but he's always thinking, and he's always taking the other side. He's a natural skeptic, and if the score is 3-2, he'll say, well, because of this, it should have been 3-3. I mean, he always finds a way to argue, but he's a skeptic. But I love him because he does it in a fun, respectful way, and he's challenged me on things, and I've done the same to him. But I still consider him one of my really good friends.
Well, he makes reference at the very beginning of this that on what night does Oak Island?
Tuesday was on last night.
Okay, so did they find the 90-foot stone last night?
Guess what?
What?
No.
Oh.
I have to say, can I be honest with you? And I don't mean to be a buzzkill. That was the biggest nothing episode I think I've ever seen in my life of almost any show.
Okay, well,
they went downtown and they were following a lead. They found the old building where the stone was displayed at one time in the past, 100+ years ago, and the building had been changed. Ooh, boy, imagine that in 100 years. And they went in the basement and they looked around and they didn't find anything. And I'm like, really?
Well, my hopes are still up for this show, so let's not. Yeah, I hear you. Let's stay positive. You never know.
All right. Well,
okay.
They didn't find anything. They didn't find anything. Nothing.
You always seem
they did. Now, I will say this though: the one thing that they did find was a stone that they showed, historical photos of that had a number carved on it, 1704. And some people think it's a date. Some people think that it's number of paces to go. And there was a woman who I think was the wife of somebody who had been killed, on Oak Island looking for the treasure. And it was a very heartwarming scene. She met the brothers, and it was very nice, and it was nice. And she showed him this stone that had been missing for a long time, and it said 1704. But at the end of the day, what does it do for you? It didn't do anything. It's just this is one of the stones that supposedly came off the island, but nobody knows where it came from, what it means. I think it's a year, but
well, exactly. Well, going back to the stone, at least the original,
the one with the cipher.
With the one with the cipher, there was it basically. I think the original decoding of it was below this point, and I forget the depth, is 2 million pounds. 2 million pounds
of gold.
Right, right, and. So that's good. That's good urban legend right there. All right, that's good stuff.
Okay, the question is it 2 million actual pounds, as in, weight, or is it 2 million pounds as in British currency?
Right.
Because there's a big difference.
Right, big difference.
If it was 2 million pounds, it'd be like
all the
trillions
gold,
of dollars.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they mean, but.
2 million pounds of gold would be all of the gold ever mined in human history,
and then some, probably.
Yeah,
so
then some. Right.
So it's got to mean British pounds, or the translation's off.
Right. So, which takes us to today, and Jerry, what say you?
What do I say?
Yes, let's go to this translation here. You've got, and everybody can go to. I've sent out the links to Scott's website.
Can you read it for me, because I'm not at my computer?
Oh man, now I got to put glasses on and.
Well, listen, if I go to my computer, I got to put my glasses on. So.
Okay. Okay. So he's got the original here, and then he has got the La Formule document too as well. And he has the translation for La Formule, which I'm not going to read in French because I'll hack the crap out of it.
No, I just do it in English.
But he says, halt, do, burrow, not dig at 40 feet with an angle 45 degrees. The shaft at 522 feet as you enter, ? 1,065 feet reached the chamber.
Right.
Right.
That just doesn't sound like anything to me that just, if that's correct, let's just assume that translation is correct, okay? That doesn't sound like anything on Oak Island to me. That sounds like something somewhere else, like maybe in the mountains, in caves and karst topography or something like that. So I'm just wondering, and remember, that page or that cipher was also on a page in documents that Zena Halpern had that goes along with the map that was featured on Oak Island. And so it makes me wonder if it's even talking about Oak Island. It could be talking about somewhere else. I mean, that's a possibility. Otherwise, they're very specific directions. But here again, where do you start?
Well, the La Formula document, this page, which looks like a partial page, where did this surface?
That was something that was given to Zena by somebody that she knew, and I'm not sure how much I can even talk about this, because I've actually known about this stuff for like 10 years. But because this was somebody else's research, I didn't talk about it. I didn't share it with anyone. But now that Zena's gone public, I feel like it's okay. I can talk about some of this stuff now.
Okay.
And so this, and I'm just going to pull up my book real quick because I don't want to jump the shark on Zena, because I know she's going to be on the show again. And I think she's going to be on there live. So I'm going into my book, and I'm looking up what I wrote because I want to be careful. And she actually let me talk quite quite a bit about the story, and actually what I only published part of the map, and I know we're going to get to that a little bit later.
Right.
Okay, here we go. The C document. And this started back, it looks like it started when I first started looking at things here. It's going back to 2006. But there was some documents that came her way along with some artifacts. And they had some very strange text associated with them, not just that cipher, but also a text that the Templars were known to use back in the 12th century called Theban. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Yes. And actually, there is Theban writing on some of the artifacts that I've seen that she has, and on some of these documents. And it is so complicated how this whole thing came about. But anytime you talk about anything related to the Templars, it's complicated. At the end of the day, the bottom line is that this is associated with Templars coming over to North America. In this particular case, if you read her map, there's a date at the top of 1179, and these maps were then passed on and found their way into different countries, into the hands of different people, and trying to track this story, it's so immensely complicated. They changed hands a number of times, but in the late 60s, around 1970 is when this C document was obtained by these people she got the information from. And I don't think I want to say their names, but anyway, they spent about 15 years chasing after the information where certain things had been hidden by the Templars. And they weren't even on Oak Island. Some of them were on Oak Island, most of it was not. It was inland farther. But the parts that we're seeing on the show do relate to Oak Island. And I know that sounds like a cluster, but it is a cluster. It's been immensely difficult to try to sort all this stuff out. And the difficult part is that the artifacts are real, but the documents are photographs of copies.
Right.
You follow me?
I do.
So, and for all we know, in the case of the map, it could be a copy of a copy of a copy. Now, I'm not saying it is. We don't know. So the difficult part is we don't have the originals. And I think it's very important for us to be upfront and honest that that's the case. Because sometimes what happens is people will take information like that's second, third, fourth generation in some cases, and talk about it like it's the original. And that's not the case. So we just got to be careful, that's all.
Now, with the 90-foot stone and this portion of the cipher that appears in the formulae, what is the rest of the formulae? What is that concerning? Because, and the reason why I ask is if you apply the original version of the stone, if you dig below here, you're going to find 2 million pounds, right? Okay, so there's that. But if this is saying at 40 feet, start going in the other direction at 45 degrees, and then another, then this, like you said, this may not apply to Oak Island at all, but how does it apply into the formulae document, and what does the rest of the formulae talk about?
Well, the answer to that is I don't know. On that particular document that's missing part of the page.
Yes.
The one thing that I will say is that apparently, and I don't think anybody's talked about this yet, but on the other side of that page,
yes,
the real one, there's more. But that is something that has not been shared yet. And the reason I know that is because I have seen it, and there is more of the cipher that goes on the back. So that's another reason why I think that this doesn't make sense for it to necessarily apply to Oak Island, because there's a lot going on. And again, once you get below the water table, I become extremely skeptical that they would have used that. First of all, they would have had access to that type of engineering necessary to be able to dig below the water table, especially to the kind of depths that they're talking about. And then once you hit bedrock, I mean, you're talking about like digging into granite.
Right.
How did they do that? But, let me just say one other thing, Jimmy, and again, I'm not trying to be a buzzkill. I'm just trying to apply logic to this whole situation, okay? Somebody contacted me a while back and asked me a question, said, well, do you think that when Prince Henry came over in 1398 and he was up at New Ross, that he would have, dug a bunch of tunnels so that they could secret the treasure in and nobody could see them, and they built these flood tunnels and they went to all this exorbitant effort to make sure that the treasure was hidden away so nobody could find it? And I said, well, no, I don't think that was the case at all. And the reason is we're talking 1398. Who the hell are they going to hide it from? I mean, there was nobody there.
Right.
I mean, the natives were there, but the natives didn't care. So why would they need to dig tunnels? Why would they need flood tunnels to bring the stuff from their boats to wherever they put it? That doesn't make any sense to me. There was no one there.
Right. Was anybody living in Greenland at that time? I know there was a couple little tiny settlements.
Yes,
that...
there was a monastery there at that time.
Right.
A Christian monastery that probably wasn't necessarily the kind of Christianity that some people think, but that's another story.
Right.
But here's my point on this whole thing, okay, and why I struggle with some of the flood tunnels and all the extraneous 90 feet and 135 and all this. The bottom line is this, is that if you have something and you want to hide it, okay, if you go out in your yard and at night and you bury it at 5 feet, 10 feet, 50 feet, or 100 feet, okay, if I buried it out there, Jimmy, and you don't know where it is, does it matter how deep it is?
No.
Right.
3 feet is enough.
And let's say you figure it out.
Right.
Okay? And let's say you're the church that's looking for the Templar treasure that includes a hell of a lot more than just gold and silver coin. Okay? You know they brought over religious relics, and they probably brought over the Ark too. But the point is that if you know it's out in my yard, and if I buried it at 600 feet with flood tunnels and booby traps and all the stuff that Indiana Jones had to go through, okay, and you know what you want is down there, you're not going to quit until you get it, are you? You're going to sacrifice whoever you have to get down to that level and get what you want.
Right.
So my point is that you don't need to do that.
Right.
If they don't know where it is, flood tunnels and digging it 100 feet isn't going to matter. If they want it, they're going to get it. They have to find it first.
Do you think
all this other stuff to me just doesn't really make sense? Does that make sense, what I just said?
No, and I hear you, because it seems to me that everybody wants a good buried treasure story, right? We all want that, right?
Absolutely.
So we have that, and is it just the extreme game of telephone? That over the years now, that it's turned into flood tunnels, and it's turned into when the kids first jumped in their boat, right, and thought that they saw something on the island, and the kids come back and they tell their story, and the next thing you know, it goes from this to this to this to this, and here we are 226 years later, and we've got something that is so convoluted and so far from the original story that now we're just chasing our tails.
I think that is 100% the case. That doesn't mean that there isn't something there or there wasn't something there at one time. But, these urban legends just, they can spin out of control. But, let me just go back and just say one thing and tell me if you agree with me about this point. You brought it up. You said everybody likes a good treasure story, and there's no question about that. I actually think that there's something in our brains that, what Well, we know there's something that when you see a beautiful woman, there's something that triggers in your brain and it makes you act crazy, right? Well, I think there's also something kind of like that when it comes to treasure. That when people hear the word treasure, it's like, oh, God, what is it? Is there any way I could find it? You know, and it's like there's this thing in our brain that just won't let go, even sometimes. And I'm not necessarily saying the show Oak Island is this way, but even when, if you stop and think about something in a completely logical way, there's no way in hell that there's a treasure over, you know, buried in the woods behind the old oak tree. But yet there's still something inside of it that says, yeah, I know, but I'm going to go just take a quick look just in case. And we just won't let it go. And I think that's part of the allure of this show, is that people, even though some of the silly things that, in my opinion, happen on that show, there's still this thing where people go, yeah, but you never know. And we just can't let it go. And if you look at the ratings, they're off the charts.
Right.
And to me, it doesn't seem like they're making any headway, but people just don't want to give up.
Right.
And I think there's something in our brains, the way we're wired, that just makes us think that way. What do you think?
Well, I agree. And this is the thing. When it comes to King Solomon's treasure or the missing Japanese gold or the Ark or right?
Yeah.
This stuff is missing, right? It's just plain missing, and we've got to find it. And until we do, right? The Ark is the Holy Grail. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only Scott Wolter. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this. It will be the Oak Island map, I promise.
All right.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
You get a Zipa. You get a Zipa. You hear me?
What's the name when you snort? It's Zipa. Zipa. It's the thing we're craving for. It's Zipa. Zipa. You can't sleep all night. Zipa. Zipa. And wake up feeling right. It's Zipa. Zipa. Makes me love my husband more. 'Cause he no longer snores. Zipa. Zipa. It's Zipa.
Zipa's different than any other device because it actually works. A lot of these other devices, they just bring the jaw forward. That's it. However, the thing that makes Zipa different, it stabilizes the tongue, basically, with this elastic band. But right here, Jimmy's telling you that this is a unique device. Go to Zipa now, buy it, and stop the snoring. Get a Zipa, ZYPPAH.com. Zipa.com. That's ZYPPAH.com.
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Scott Wolter is with us, host of History Channel's America Unearthed, author, researcher. He's a rockologist. Not just about prints, too, but he knows everything from concrete to... now, Scott, I've just reposted the Oak Island map, and when you and I were talking last week about this, I'm not going to throw you under the bus totally, but you did say one thing to me that I'm going to mention, which was you've known about this for over 10 years, and there is a history to this map. So when you said that to me, what did you mean?
Well, I meant what I said, that I've known about it for 10 years. And I've actually, I did write about it in my Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers book about 3.5 years ago. And, but it is somebody else's research, and obviously I want to be respectful of that. And so I only published part of the map in my book that had the one hooked X that is, right there and everybody can see. And if you go to the map, and you see that circle with the...
two lines.
With the two lines in the middle, which some people have suggested might be a symbol for eclipses. And if it is, then that would tell us that they probably had the capability of calculating longitude, but we don't know that for sure. But if you look, you can see that there's some Roman numbers there, the word Nord, which would be north, and you can see that the 10 in the number 45 is hooked. It's a perfect hooked X. And I'll never forget when I first saw it. I just about, And but the other thing that's interesting is when they showed this on the show a couple of weeks ago, or I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. If you go to the top, and it's actually cut off in that picture that you posted, but if you look at the date there, MCLXXIX.
See it?
The last X is hooked as well.
Yeah, it is hooked as well. I looked at every X on this, and I missed that the first time through. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. That date.
Well, and there's a third one.
Where's the third one? Hold on.
Okay, if you go, you see with the circle with the two lines?
Uh-huh.
Go up to the next line.
Right.
And then go up to the line above that.
Right.
And go all the way to the left. You see where it says 6?
Oh, yeah, there it is. There's another. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's not a very good one, but I think that's the third hooked X. Now, the hooked X, you have to understand, is a very important, and it's a sacred symbol used by the Cistercians and the Knights Templar. It's unique unto them. And they didn't just throw this out there because they felt like it or it was cool. I mean, it's almost like using it as an acknowledgement of deity or like a plea for protection, like an amulet or, something like that, something that you hold sacred. And you want to, you only use it in certain circumstances. And, to me, one of the things here in the number 45, where it says North 45, 45 in medieval times, and actually going back much further, was the optimal latitude in the northern hemisphere for making astronomical observations. So that was a sacred rose line, if you will. And we actually have that word on here, Rodon, rose. And the problem here is that with this map, is we're not sure what text is referring to what line and what thing. So it's really kind of confusing. But some of the traditions that I'm aware of that the Templars embraced, I see a lot of things on this map that's consistent with that.
Okay, let's go to a couple of particulars with this map. Number one, when did you publish the Hooked X the first time?
The first time I published the Hooked X was in 2009 in my book, The Hooked X.
This map was found at least 10 years ago.
I saw it before that.
Right. So, therefore, they wouldn't have, if this was a forgery, then the Hooked X didn't come from you, right?
Well,
I'm trying to do a chain of command
Actually,
here.
one of the what I would call a troll came onto my blog and said, well, they could have, in sort of a snarky way, but it was actually a good point. They said, well, you were lecturing about the Hooked X before that. Well, that's true. Now, I wasn't lecturing to a very big audience, certainly was long before America Unearthed, and people, as many people know who I am now, didn't know me back then. So I would say the chances that anybody would have heard it would have been small, very small. So I would say realistically, no, they wouldn't have known about the Hooked X and its meaning. And back at that time, I was still trying to piece it all together myself, so I didn't have as clear of an understanding as I did, 2008, 2009. So no, I mean, that to me is one of the things that absolutely rings authentic with this map, is the Hooked X, and not just the fact that it's there, but how it's being used in the date, which is important, and that particular latitude of 45, which is a sacred latitude. Now, the 6, I'm not really sure why they did that, but there's a reason.
Yeah,
I just don't know what it is.
Well, okay. Now, there's a couple of other things that I need to be very direct about. Oh, yeah, CJ is in one of the chat rooms. She wanted me to tell you that she actually made it in, and that she didn't, want to get busted or have you think that, she was not here. But she's here. She's in one of the chat rooms. She says hi. Okay, now.
Well, good.
Now,
back
to this. I never do shout-outs on the show, but, there you go. CJ got one.
Well, that was nice. Thank you.
Okay, so back to this map has been traced now how many times? The version that we are looking at is not the original. How many versions through is this one?
I have no idea. I just simply don't know. But if I look at the paper, this is not, this isn't parchment. It's not papyrus. It's not flaxseed paper. It looks like regular paper that might be 100, maybe 200 years old at the most, in my opinion.
Right.
I'm not an expert on paper, but this is not 12th century paper. I'm pretty sure of that.
Now, have you held this particular map in your hands? No. You have not. Okay.
I have not.
And I want all these points to be clear, Scott. That's why I'm being very direct.
Listen, this is important because, as I said before, one of the issues with this, and part of the reason why I haven't pushed it harder than I have, is because these are photographs of a copy of an original at best.
So
this may be a second or third generation copy. We don't know.
And this is the other point that I want to drive home. I thought that there was one Hooked X. Now I found out that there's not two, but there's actually 3 here. But there are X's all over this, and how many of them through the translations and tracings and copies could have been Hooked X's that have been left off of the map, and the Hooked X's that are here are deliberate. So they were there on the originals. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I mean, I don't know why they would copy it and add something that wasn't there before.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. Now, it's possible they may have missed some Hooked X's, but I think that this is probably because it really is, in many ways, it's a crude map on one hand, but on the other hand, it's actually quite detailed, and I think it's probably whoever did this tried to stay true to the original, I would think, as much as possible. So unless we have a reason to doubt it, I would say this is probably pretty darn close, if not right on, a copy of whatever the original was.
Okay, so now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, what are we looking at, and what do you see?
Well, what I see is some really interesting things. And by the way, this map has been cropped because the southern piece of land there, that right by Ledis,
yes,
which means the goddess,
right?
That is on the maps that I have. So this has been cropped a little bit. But anyway, what's really interesting, I think, is, do you see where the seals of Solomon are? Star of David?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes, there's one,
there's
two.
Two of them.
There's two, yes.
Yeah, if you just take those two pieces of land that are actually what they've done is they've cut Nova Scotia in half, and they put the northern half on top and the southern half on the bottom. So they could make this map on a vertically aligned piece of paper.
Oh,
I've never seen anything like that before. Have you?
No. Well, no. But you can't think into somebody's mind that's doing this that long ago and why they would do it that way. What do you think?
Well, I'm not really sure why they did that, but that's what they did. And so the orientation looks to be like if you just took that bottom piece and you could just pick it up and then connect it to the upper piece.
Right.
And basically put those two stars of David over each other and put this thing back together again, that would look a lot like Nova Scotia. Now, it's rather crude, but there are enough diagnostic features on here that tell you this is absolutely Nova Scotia, and that is Newfoundland to the north.
And what is the date on this again?
1179.
1179. Okay, then we have Freud. We come down. We have longitude and latitude lines.
Freud means frozen.
Frozen. Okay.
Yep.
And
that's cold country up there.
as we move south with the orientation that we have here, what are the translations of everything?
Well, a lot of what you're seeing, like, for example, Inuit,
right,
is the native tribes. Now, I hope I'm not giving anything away, but I will tell you that there are other maps that go with this. This is not the only map.
And what are you saying when you say that? What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot more to this story than just this map.
Okay.
There's a lot going on here, but there are other maps. So when and the reason I'm telling you that, and I can't go into what they are, that's Zena's work, but I also have the benefit of the collective information that's on those maps as well, and I know exactly where those places are. Okay. And they're not far from this place.
Okay, well, down at what I'm curious about below the sun or the eclipse or whatever that is.
Yep. What appears to be, yeah.
We have something marked clearly right there. There's a square, and take us through that.
When you say the square, do you mean those lines on the lower half of the map?
Yep, and they all intersect. They create a square. There's 4 points. There's 4 dots, and that's where Ledis is.
Yep.
Okay, so what's going on there?
Well, I again, it's I have to just do the best I can here, but where the 2 lines intersect on the bottom,
right,
to the upper left of Ledis,
right,
that's Mahone Bay, and that's Oak Island.
Interesting.
I think so.
Interesting.
That would be the location of Oak Island. Now, it's not in enough detail to say for sure because there's a lot of other islands there, but we presume that that's Oak Island. The intersection to the northeast of that, the next one, that could be New Ross.
The big dot at northeast in the northeast corner.
Well, it's you see where the Star of David is?
Yeah, right to the left
in
of the Star of
Bay,
David.
it's the dot in between.
Right.
But if you notice, if you extend that line that says Rodon
Yep.
to the west of where that intersection is, there's another dot. Do you see that?
Yep.
On that that vertical line to the left there?
Yep.
So, actually, I think that's probably New Ross. So the other intersection, I'm not sure.
And
I don't know for sure. I mean, that's my best guess.
And
one of those two dots to the north is probably New Ross, where allegedly Prince Henry's men built a shelter there out of stone, like a monastery.
Right. How accurate have you overlaid this over the actual harbor?
Map?
Yeah, over the harbor area.
Yes, we have, and the some of the latitude lines are accurate, are pretty accurate. The longitude lines, apparently longitude lines, are not. And the problem is that there was a big discussion on my blog over the past week and a half about these numbers don't make sense when thinking about the prime meridians that we know existed in medieval times and today. But I think the problem that sometimes people run into is making assumptions that the Templars are going to use what everybody else used. Not necessarily.
Right.
They may have their own unique prime meridian. Maybe they used Rosslyn Chapel. Maybe they used Kilwinning. Maybe they used something else that was important to them and not necessarily what everybody else was using. And some people say, well, boy, that's awful convenient to explain these numbers that don't seem to make sense. Well, my response would be, look, there's a reason why they did this, if this is a legit map. And just because it doesn't fit the narrative that you want it to fit or that you think it should fit doesn't mean that it's wrong. You follow me?
Yeah, I do. And
right.
And I've seen some of the debate about this too as well, because it is a copy and quite possibly a tracing. It could be almost anything. It could be almost anywhere. It could have been created at any time. Somebody could draw a map this accurate with their left hand if they were right-handed. I've seen all of this out there.
I don't buy that though, Jimmy. I got to tell you. I mean, the other thing that I think sometimes skeptics and some scholars will do is they will be skeptical to the point of cutting off their nose to spite their face. Okay, first off, if this thing is legitimate and it was made by the Templars in 1179, this is a huge discovery.
Huge.
Okay? It's freaking huge. Okay? I'm not saying that it's legit. I don't know if it's legit. But I will say this. For me, that hooked X or those hooked X's on this map add a huge win in the authenticity column. Now, does it get it over the goal line? No, it probably doesn't. But it's enough that has kept me very interested in this for the last 10 years. And the big issue is we don't have the provenance question taken care of enough to convince the people that we need to convince. And I accept that. But you know what? You can't throw this thing out in the garbage by any means, and it could very well be one of the most important historical discoveries in the history of this country.
What is
and
the
there's a lot more that goes with it than just this map. Remember that. And it's not just a few other maps. It's dozens and dozens of pages of documents that go with it, probably 50 or 100. And when Xena releases that stuff, it's going to get your attention. It's going to talk about stuff that no one has ever heard before. Well, people have heard about it, but not to the level of detail that these documents go into. And there's things in those documents that ring authentic as hell.
Right.
And, man, I just want to just scream to the world, but I just can't.
Well, I understand.
First of all, it's not from my place to do that. And secondly, it's just not enough to say with certainty But boy, it's going to get real interesting real soon when she releases the rest of it.
What is the provenance of it now? What is the chain of custody that you know of?
Well, Xena has the rights to this material. She shared it with a small circle of researchers many years ago, along with some of the artifacts. There are also artifacts, too, that, we all agreed. And, I signed an NDA several years ago. It's expired, but I don't need to sign an NDA. It's her research, and I'll respect that.
Right.
And I want to support her. She's writing a book. She's going to release it. And, man, when it comes out, it's going to... And quite frankly, the Oak Island mystery does figure into this story, but it's just a small piece of it. Very small piece.
What about what have you heard? What about the possibility of the originals existing out there? Any word on the street about that?
Yes. And I hate to say this, but there's a very good chance the Roman Catholic Church has those documents. And if they do, they will not see the light of day.
When is her book coming out?
Well, they're working on it right now, and I'm hopeful that it'll be out within the next 6 months. I really think she's going to make an effort to get that done. I wish she would have had it done in time for the show, because she would have sold a lot of copies. And I can tell you, I know a lot of the material that's going to be in there, and it's really, really good stuff. It's a lot of the stuff that it's the same kind of stuff that I've been working on. And by the way, the hooked X's that are on this map, they're not the only ones in these documents.
There's more.
Yep.
Now, before we head to the break, right here, I keep trying to find the right words with, because it is her research. But when you look at the language that is used here, and then you look at the Formule document, and I'm also looking at the style of writing, its style. Things smell familiar here. And where are we on that front?
Well, there's a lot of work that's been done on that. And I will say this, that as fascinating and interesting and as compelling as a lot of the stuff is, including this map and the other maps and some of the other documentation and the artifacts, as amazing and interesting as those are, there are some serious red flags in this research that need to be addressed. Now, they're not deal killers by any means, but they are things that need to be addressed. And all I can say is it's a very complicated story. It's going to be very difficult. But to get to the bottom of it, but it's definitely going to add to the discussion some really, really good stuff and help our understanding about the way these people operated, what they did, where they went, how they got there, what their motivation was, what they did when they got here. But it all fits into a larger story that I've been telling, that there was a certain group of people who embraced an ideology of monotheistic dualism that's symbolized by the hooked X, that weaved started in Egypt and who knows where before that, weaved through Jerusalem, went through the Cistercians and the Templars, went to Scotland, and eventually over here long before Chris. And they came here to the sanctuary in North America back in the 1st century. The Tucson-led artifacts prove that they were here in the 8th and 9th centuries. They were coming here probably all during that time. But these are the artifacts that absolutely are 100% bulletproof. I don't care what the skeptics say. They were found in an absolutely pristine archaeological context, and you cannot just dismiss them with an arm wave simply because you don't like them and what they represent. And that's what they've been trying to do. But this material adds to the collective of information, artifacts, and sites of pre-Columbian contact by a certain group of people that saw North America and the people that were here as a sanctuary to get away from persecution over in Europe. And isn't that the age-old story of humanity?
Well, and what scares the crap out of me about that is if there was some definitive proof that came forward, right? Just that's it. Let's close the book on this. Could somebody from Northern Europe, somebody from Northern Africa lay claim to the United States? Right?
That's a great. Well, actually, why don't we come back and we can? Are you going to commercial?
Yeah, we're gonna go
question?
we're gonna go to break right now. But it's just like I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on that.
Well, I'll answer that question for you, and the answer is actually pretty simple.
Let's take a break right here.
I'll wait on that.
You got it. Our guest tonight, the one and only Scott Wolter, America Unearthed, author, rockologist. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Scott right after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
You've probably heard about all the great benefits of goat milk soap, but did you know some companies take shortcuts? At Old New England Soap, we make our organic goat's milk soap using 36% goat's milk. That's 17% more than most others. Our bars are larger, so they last longer, producing lots of lather packed with vitamins. And our soap is a natural moisturizer that smooths dry and damaged skin. Order online at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. oldnesoap.com.
Water-based soaps on supermarket shelves use harsh chemical acids to break down dead skin cells. And that's just not good for you. At Old New England Soap, our soaps are made without chemical ingredients, contain no alcohol or petroleum products, and use 85% organic materials and carry the USDA's organic certification. Try some today. Go to oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have sciatica, then you know all about the crippling pain that travels from your lower back down your leg when a spasm occurs. It's brutal. In fact, it's enough to take your breath away. Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream helps relieve persistent, shooting pains associated with the sciatic nerve in the lower back and legs. This natural, homeopathic cream contains the most potent ingredients to soothe even the most excruciating pain associated with sciatica. Stop the pain now. Ask for Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream at your local health food store or go online to trasknutrition.com.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter, author, rockologist. And we're talking about Oak Island and Scott's research into the Templars in North America and the Hooked X. Sometimes it can be a lonely world out there, Scott, I know. But you are the guy that has been researching this. And the one thing that pops up in my head is if you are proven correct, I mean, outside of our circle, right? Some head of state, some prime minister steps forward and says, hey, wait a minute. Wolter's right, and we were there first. Therefore, it is going to be called the United States of Sweden, right? Or whatever. Pick the country. Are we in danger of that?
Well, anything's possible, but I mean, what you have to have a legitimate claim. I mean, you have to have a reason to do it, and it has to be pretty damn compelling, right? Well, in my opinion, the most compelling piece of evidence where somebody could make that claim is the Kensington Rune Stone, because that's exactly what it is. It is a land claim, and it's dated 1362 twice. But the question is, who carved it, right?
Right.
Now, the language that was used on the stone in the inscription is Old Swedish, okay? But that doesn't mean it was the Swedes. In fact, what it says is 8 Gotalanders and 22 Northmen. Well, Gotalanders are people from the southern Baltic region. Okay, that's not a country.
Right.
That's a region. You got Denmark, you got Sweden. You could make the case that it's partly maybe what we now call Germany, and some of the islands associated with Scotland. So, what would a group of them want to get together? I mean, at the end of the day, there's no question that the Kensington Rune Stone was carved by the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, specifically in this case, were knights that had basically were done fighting. Many of them were the survivors and the descendants of the Templars that fought at Bannockburn and in other battles, and they were war-weary by this time. By 1362, they had had enough of fighting. The plague was ravaging through Europe. I mean, why would they want to hang around there? They were ready to come over here to this place and assimilate with the natives, which is exactly what they did. But the point is what they wanted to establish was what they called a free Templar state, where they didn't have to be worried about persecution from the Roman Catholic Church, and the monarchs of various countries putting pressure on them, like the King of France did. They just were tired of it, and so that's what they wanted to do, was establish this free Templar state. Now, the reality is, what happened, I think, is that responsibility, that agreement, or that mission to establish a presence over here, embracing the ideals of Templarism, which most people have no idea. You can forget about the scholars' definition of who the Templars were, because they have no idea what they truly believed. But what they believed in was liberty, freedom, and pretty much the ideals that we embrace in this country we now call the United States of America, which, last I checked, was founded by a group of guys that we now call our founding fathers, right?
Right.
Okay. Those guys were all Freemasons. Pretty much all of them. Maybe one or two that weren't, and most of the ones that they think weren't actually were. And, what I find interesting is that in this country, we lionize these men like George and Ben and Thomas and Paul Revere and all these guys, right, to near godlike status, because they were these great men, right?
Right.
And they were all Freemasons, which makes me ask the question, does the fact that these guys were Freemason have anything to do with their greatness? I would argue the answer is yes.
Right.
How many people do you think realize that these documents that we hold dear in this country, like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, those are all Masonic documents? So getting back to your original question, and I can guarantee you that modern Freemasonry evolved directly from medieval Templarism, 100%. So if it was the Templars that put the land claim down, I would argue it was the Freemasons, our founding fathers, who finished the job. So, and remember, Templarism and Freemasonry doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, doesn't matter if you're German, British, Irish, Scottish, French, they don't care. You unite under the same sword, and you stand for the same principles, and you are brothers.
Right.
And that's what our founding fathers said. So the answer to your question is, I don't think anybody can make a claim, because the people that made the original claim, long before Chris, their ideological descendants finished the job. And we now call them our founding fathers. How about that?
I'll tell you something very funny about this point. A couple of weeks ago, it was brought up in a thread on Facebook, and my Aunt Barb, I'm going to throw her right under the bus right now. She jumps in, and somebody made a Freemason comment about our founding fathers. And she jumps in and says, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "This isn't part of the history that I have been taught." And I jumped in and said, "Aunt Barb," and I posted a couple of things, right? Who with names, right? The signers of the Declaration of Independence, and who was Freemasons, and who. So I post that. But my point is, this is my aunt. This is just a normal, here in the United States, that went through the public school system, got a college degree, but was adamant that that is not the history that she knows. And and she made a couple of other points.
And the question is, why not?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was just like, well, wait a minute, Aunt Barb, slow down. This is what I've got for you. But I had to take a step back and ask, why would she post that? Because it was surprising to her. It just caught her, like slapped her. She had never heard anything about this. And so if she's like that, then there are millions of people out there that have no idea what we're talking about. None.
No, you know what? And that's an interesting point you bring up. And the question is, why don't more people know about that? Well, there's a reason. Because there are ideological forces like religious entities that do not want people to embrace, truly do not want people to embrace these principles that we do hold dear. Because many religions, organized religions, want to tell people what to think, what to believe, and what to do. And control people. Now, this is not a novel concept. I didn't just come up with this in this conversation. This has been going on forever. And the people that have fought against that are many of the people who have been declared heretics and burned at the stake because they had the audacity to want to think for themselves, to be able to worship their own deity without going through a human conduit. Boy, there's a novel concept. How about this? I want to have a relationship with my God, whoever that is, whatever you want to call him, because I guarantee you, whatever faith you are, whatever you believe, it's all the same thing we're talking about, right? And why can't people have that relationship with their deity or their creator, whatever they want to call it, just one-to-one? Because you can. But organized religions don't want you to do that, because then they lose control. And that's really what is one of the basic tenets of our founding fathers. Now, if you want to go to a religious institution and go through that, that's fine. That's your choice. But the point is, that's your choice. And that's what they wanted to do by creating that free Templar state we now call the United States of America, so you can make that choice. And I think sometimes we forget that, or we say it, but we don't even really realize what those words mean. We say it, but do we really believe it? Do we really embrace it? I wonder sometimes. And I got to be honest with you. Right now, our country is so divided about what our country really means and really stands for. And we sit there and we talk about our founding fathers and all these great principles, and we want to do what they wrote in the Constitution. Do they really know what they're talking about? I don't think they do. Because if they did, we wouldn't have the kind of intolerance and divisiveness that we have. I think sometimes we need to go back and really look at what these guys did. And the problem is there are forces that don't want us to do that. They don't want it. They don't want people to know these guys are Masons. So what's a Freemason? What are the principles? What do they really mean? Did they really write these documents? Yeah, they did. Read them.
Well,
and you know, read the words. I mean, you hear them sometimes, and people go, "Wow, that's amazing," but you know, we just forget, I guess.
If it's not William Shakespeare that's buried at Oak Island, I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm talking about. If it's not Bill, if it's not gold, if it isn't pirate treasure from the Caribbean, you know, some pirate booty, if it's not any of that, what is it? Is there something buried there? Do you know? You know, is it the Ark? Is it the Holy Grail? Is it something that, is it an artifact?
What if I said all of the above?
Okay. And why would you say that?
Because that's what I think.
And if it wasn't buried, again, I agree with you about the waterline and the traps that were set, all of it just never made sense to me. But then again, it was fun to contemplate, no doubt about it. The Indiana Jones, puzzle,
right.
But
yep.
But the entire island seems like it's been gone over. If something is buried there, it wouldn't be below the waterline. Am I following you correctly?
Well, what you're saying without saying is that there's nothing there.
But you're saying there is. Or has it been moved? I said, but you're saying there is. I think there is.
Well, no. Let me put it this way. There was.
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
I mean, let me just say this. This is something I believe for a long time. I mean, I know an awful lot about the Templars, the real Templars, and what their true ideology was. And when I look at, like, this map, this 12th century map that apparently has, if it's real, again, qualify everything by saying if it's real,
right,
that has longitude, latitude, and detail like you can't imagine, that were coming over here in the 12th century and for centuries after that. If they were that smart and that sophisticated, and they did all this under the radar, and no one knew about it except them. I mean, just look at the academics and all the skeptics. They'll tell you this stuff didn't happen. It did happen. If they were that smart, do you think that they would leave the greatest treasure in the history of the world for two brothers who are really probably nice guys? I've never met them. This is not an indictment on them at all. They seem like nice, well-meaning guys. I got nothing against them. But do you think that the Templars would leave something like that laying around for people to find?
Well, is there any indication on this section of the map where, because there's, I'm looking here, there's 1, 2, 3. If we go north and west of Oak Island, there are 3 bodies of land with 3 cross sections with 3 dots on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Are we just looking in the wrong area? Do you think that, I mean, these are marked for a reason?
Well, my personal opinion is, first of all, if the Templars brought over, and they did, the greatest treasure that anyone could imagine, I mean, maybe there was a better treasure somewhere else, they probably wouldn't put all their eggs in one basket, don't you think?
Okay, well, where the 6 is...
Well, let me ask you this. Would you?
Well, that's because that's why I'm asking. If you look where the 6 is, right? Well, we're calling it 6 because it looks like it says 6. There's a coordinate right there.
It does say 6, and if you look, if you go up to Freud,
yes,
and you blow that up, you can see it says 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And there's 3 dots.
Yes.
And then it's quattro on the northern tip of the Inuit.
Yep. Quatra. Yep.
And then Sina.
Yep.
Cinco. Sina.
Yep.
5 and then 6.
Right.
So those might be points where they stopped. And maybe they dropped the stuff off. I can guarantee you this. I know the Templars would never, ever put all their eggs in one basket. No way, no how, never. So the treasure, even if it was still on Oak Island, is not everything. That's in other places. I can guarantee you that. They just wouldn't do that. They're just, you know.
Well, why aren't you and I going up on an expedition to 5 and 6?
Wait, my friend. Wait.
How close?
Let's put it this way. I got some cards under the table here that I haven't played. They're pretty good cards.
Yeah, I know you have. Well, look, now that this is out there, I mean, tonight's not the first time that this has been revealed. It's been out, but what is stopping somebody from? How accurate is the depiction of the land from this map to what is happening today, where 5 and 6 are, let's say?
I don't think you could use this map to go. You can't use this map to go find the treasures. It's just not accurate enough. And if there was things buried in different places, and I'm not saying that that's what's going on here. I'm not saying that at all. But I know that the Templars would not put everything in one place. They would put it in multiple places. They would mark it in a way that they could find again. And but would it still be there today is the question. Now, if I'm right that they wanted to establish a free Templar state, and we did that, and we actually formed this country we now call the United States of America, what was the treasure? What was the purpose of bringing the treasure over?
Well, because everybody on planet Earth was looking for it, and it's a symbol of power.
Let's say they did it. Let's say, okay, well, screw everybody that's looking for it. We got it. We brought it over. We hit it. Now we established this place. Now what do they do with it?
What I would do with it?
Let's just play this scenario out. Logically, what would they have done with it if they got away with it? And they established this place, they kept it secret, what would they have done with it?
Well, I'm assuming they would create a new race of super beings.
No! It's money. It's stuff.
Yes, of course. But it's also away from the Vatican. That's
right.
Yeah.
And remember, the United States does not include Nova Scotia. Right?
Right.
You're not going to leave it there.
Right. Well,
you're going to go get it, right?
I mean, the more that I've been looking at this map now for days, right? I've been looking at it, and the more that I look at it, it just keeps telling me that there's 3. I'm going to call it 3. Right? There's 5, 6, and I guess that's 4. So is that number 3 up at the Freud?
Mm-hmm.
That's 3, right? So
3 of them up there. They're real close to each other.
Right. So there's a definite 3 points of interest that are marked on this map. I mean, that's it.
And I will just say this, and I feel like I'm being a jerk, but you remember this? Remember I told you there's a bunch of documentation with these maps?
Right.
I know what those dots are, but I can't tell you.
Oh, man.
I know, what a dick. Huh?
You know, you do this every show. It doesn't matter.
I always do something like this. And you know what? I love you to death, and I'm being such a jerk. I apologize.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do to you
what I feel those hands around my neck. Jimmy, stop that.
I know,
stop
exactly.
That.
I'm going to do to you what I've done every single time that you've done this to me. Okay, so I get 3 questions.
All right. Hey, you know what? Actually, I was thinking about that earlier today. So you know what I'm going to do with Jimmy? We're going to play 20 questions, but not 20. Let's just you can ask me some questions, and I promise I will answer honestly.
Okay. Are they markings to a marker?
Markings to a marker. You have to explain that to me. I'm not tracking.
Are these identifying a place where there is something that is marking the spot?
Yeah.
So that's a yes.
I don't think in the context that you're thinking about. So I don't know if they marked the spots or not. They may have, but I don't know that. The answer is I don't know for sure.
Do these spots? Okay, all right. Are they from something from Europe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Are they something that was originally not from Europe?
If you're talking about, was there a meeting of natives and Europeans?
That's where I'm going. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Okay.
I have said it many times. There is no way anybody from anywhere is going to operate on this continent in any meaningful way unless the natives let you. That means you have to develop a relationship with them. 100%. I've been told that many times by different nations, different tribes. So yes.
Do you think that this is something that will be solved because of this map? This mystery, yes, this will be solved. Not necessarily because of this map, but this and other maps, yes. It will be solved. It will. What is the significance with the Roman numerals?
Well, that was the convention that they typically used at that time. I mean, they used Roman numbers, and one of the reasons why they used Roman numbers is the Cistercians and the Templars didn't believe in zero, the concept of zero. So they don't have it. There is no number for zero.
So going back to this, when we look at the cross sections of lines, and I understand that the longitude and the latitudes may not make sense with a modern map, or
even the Paris meridian back in medieval times. For a while, it was there, and it doesn't jive with that either.
You are on the same page that I am. Mm-hmm. Is there, because of that, is there a connection? Forget about Perry Reese, but is there a Turkish or a Chinese or an Asian or even Greek version of this that would make sense for 1179 to be consistent with the time period? In other words, this map has to make sense to somebody else.
Well, it does, but I honestly don't know enough about the other maps to say if there's some reasonable connection with this map or not. I mean, this appears to be unique to the Templars. This is a unique usage for this time. And the big problem everybody has with this, anybody who's seriously understands maps, is the longitude. The longitude is the big problem.
Right.
And you have to have an accurate clock, and be able to make some pretty precise measurements to be able to get an accurate measurement of longitude. But the other thing that people forget is when you're sailing on the ocean, you don't necessarily need longitude. If you dead reckon on a latitude, you just follow that latitude and you know where your destination is. If it's at whatever latitude it's at, you just dead reckon. When you hit land, boom, you're there.
That was always the difficulty.
You don't even need longitude.
That's right. Yeah. Eventually, you're going to get to where, as long as your latitude is correct.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Now, in some cases, they would use things like the mouths of major rivers where they hit the ocean, like at Spirit Pond. I mean, the Spirit Pond rune stones were found at the mouth of the Kennebec River. I mean, it's right there. And it's, I think, like the largest river until you get down to the Merrimack River down near Cape, in Boston. But, those are the kind of landmarks and places where they would, those were major destination points because they would be, relatively easy to find. You hit a coastline, you go north or south, and you find this landform, this river, and it would be a meeting place or a settlement place or, a rendezvous point.
It's amazing to me. And like I said, also, I meant to bring up this point earlier. You didn't bring it up, but we were going that direction, which is it looks to move, the movement of the map is to the west, to the north and to the west. It looks like things originate in the east, at the bay, at the bottom of the map, and then everything is then moving up north and east. It feels like that's the flow of it.
I can tell you that it's actually the opposite.
Really?
Yep. Because if you look, the 1, 2, 3 is in the north, right?
Right.
And then down to 4 on the northern part of Nova Scotia, and then a little west heading towards the mouth of the St. Lawrence. But then you can actually go through Nova Scotia and get down to Mahone Bay and New Ross and those areas down to southeastern Nova Scotia. So it's actually the movement. I understand what you're saying, but actually the movement is from the east, northeast, south, southwest, and then back east. But remember, you're still really going west because if you take that lower chunk of Nova Scotia and you put it back where it's supposed to be,
right.
Remember it was cut in half?
Yes.
You're actually still going west.
Right. Okay, but then if you look at it in those terms, I'm trying to figure out the puzzle here because this is a puzzle. Then those 3 or 4 points that are in the northwest
in
are
Newfoundland,
those,
which is actually Newfoundland.
Right. Are those the 4 points that are represented on the southern part of the map with the 4 intersections?
I don't think so. No. Actually, remember, those southern points on that bottom piece of land, actually you have to push south and west and then connect it back to the northern piece.
Right.
So those longitude lines are not correct relative to the other ones. You have to put that back in place, and then those numbers will fit.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. That's what makes this
it's
so
kind of a
confusing.
mind bender, really,
right.
when you look at it. It's like, Jesus, why did they do this? I have no idea why they did that, except that it just worked to make it fit on a vertical sheet of paper. Why didn't they put it horizontally? I don't know. I can tell you this, though. That page is actually the left-hand side of a book. There's a right side to that, and there's another map on the right side.
Well, what would be on the map on the right side? It would be open ocean, right?
No, it's not. It's not like it's two pieces that fit together.
Right.
It's actually south. It's actually down by Cape Cod,
Maine. Interesting.
Yeah, it's farther south.
Scott, Man, you always leave me with more questions than answers.
Look,
I know.
Call Zena, tell her to get this damn book done so we can talk about the rest of it, because there's a lot more to this story. It's a great story. Like I said, it's got some issues. It needs to be vetted. I just wish we could get a hold of it, the originals, so we could really, and the story that goes with it. Oh my God! And I think I wrote a little bit about it, but it talks about the voyage, where they went, what happened, and eventually they did get back. But they came this voyage that goes with this map. They came over here for a reason. They were looking for something that had been brought here many centuries earlier. Actually, a millennia earlier.
Okay, Scott. What are you alluding to? So it's not that this map represents something that they brought here, but they were looking for something that was brought 1,000 years before. This is 1179. You're talking about the year 79. Year 79 is the Jewish uprising in Jerusalem. I mean, that was.
Did I say that? I never said that. Did I?
No, I'm saying that, and that was the biggest. Okay. That was the CNN World Event cover story for a couple of years.
You remember the Bat Creek Stone?
Yes.
Okay, where was that found?
In Bat Creek.
Good one. It was found in eastern Tennessee inside a Native American burial mound by the Smithsonian in 1889. And it was found inside of a birch bark bundle, a sacred bundle, under the skull of the one person in the mound with their heads pointing to the south of the 9 bodies inside that mound. With that stone were 2 brass bracelets, not copper.
Right.
And there was a bone awl for punching hole in leather.
That's
and
right.
There was a piece of red ochre stone for face paint. That bone and the wood were carbon-14 dated back in the early 80s to around 69 AD to 700 AD, that range. But the bracelets were dated to, the bracelets were brass, consistent with 1st century Jewish bronze work, and the inscription on the stone is early Aramaic, around 1st century time period. So how did that get into a Tennessee burial mound?
It was a hoax.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, I'm playing with.
Stop it. No, the story of the Bat Creek Stone is just tragic, but it's just, this is the one artifact. See, the Smithsonian Institute, a lot of people don't realize, has been largely funded by the Roman Catholic Church. Fact, okay? And starting in the 1860s, when they began the mound excavation program, they were looking for 2 things, okay? Why did they even do it? Why did they dig in those mounds? Just because they were curious? No, because they were, 1, looking for gold, because that's where they thought the natives buried their gold. But that's not where they put their gold. The other reason is they were looking for anything that might upset the apple cart of manifest destiny, of somebody else being here prior to us coming here. And anything that they found that would get in the way of that would raise questions, was tucked away. Remember the old in Raiders of the Lost Ark in the end when he said, we got our top people on it, our top people, and they were pushing those crates into the sea of crates, never to be seen, see the light of day again?
That's right.
That's true. And it's not just the Smithsonian. It happens at other museums. But the Bat Creek Stone is unique because they thought it was Paleo-Cherokee when they first found it. Cherokee, not a threat, no problem. Publish it, everything's fine. But then when it was flipped around and it was discovered in 1970 that it was actually 1st century Paleo-Hebrew, you would think our nation's museum, right? Scientific method, everything's done the right way. they find out that it's 1st century Paleo-Hebrew, don't you think that their reaction should be, wow, that's interesting. We should take a closer look at that. That was not their reaction. Their immediate reaction was, and forceful reaction was, oh, 1st century Hebrew? Oh, no, it's a fake, and our guy John Emmert did it. That was their immediate reaction. By the way, they didn't even know who John Emmert was. This happened 80 years after he died.
Right.
They threw him under the bus. Okay? John Emmert. And I got into a nasty debate on my blog after we aired an episode about the Back Creek, because for the first time in their history after that episode, they wrote into my blog and posted their first official statement that it was a hoax perpetrated by John Emmert. And I wrote back and I said, you know what, guys? You might want to rethink this, because, first of all, you're throwing your own guy under the bus. You're accusing him of planting a fake, okay, with no evidence, by the way. And let me just say this. If your guy is so dishonest and so bad that he would perpetrate a hoax and you can't trust him on this dig, what about the 200 other digs that he did? All of a sudden, those have to be called into question too, right?
Right.
And if you guys are so incompetent, you're going to hire a guy like him. What about the rest of your field agents? Are they a bunch of dopes too? All of a sudden now, you are throwing the entire program for 100 years of digging in Native American mounds into question, okay? Do you really want to go there? Well, and guess what they did? They wrote back and they said, well, it's still a hoax, but they took John Emmert out of it.
The thing, every time that I've ever looked at the Back Creek Stone, I have the one question: who knew about ancient Aramaic and could pull off this hoax in the late 1800s? I mean, how many people on planet Earth were walking around knowing? that knew how to put the details in the inscription that are correct for that. You know what, Jimmy? It's a great question. I have no idea, but I can guarantee you this: there ain't very many. No, and if you're going to hoax something back in the 1800s, late 1800s, Egyptian hieroglyphs or something, go what's the hot thing of the day.
But at the end of the day, let's just say, what's the motive? What's the point?
Okay, but
in 1889, who the hell's going to bother? I don't understand what the point is.
So how did it get there?
Well, look, there's no evidence of intrusion. I've read all the field reports. John Emmert did a really good job. His field notes are very extensive. They're very detailed. And this guy was good. The other thing that's interesting about John Emmert, he was a Civil War veteran, wounded twice. He buried in an unmarked grave that is now marked because the Cherokee paid $10,000 to erect a monument in his honor because of all this stuff that we've been doing with the show and everything. They did that on their own. And he was also a constable, a cop, basically, in law enforcement, and he was a Freemason. He was a brother Mason of mine. And I can tell you this, both in law enforcement and Freemasonry, you can't do either until you're vetted. They don't just pull dopes off the street and give them a gun or raise them in a Masonic lodge. But yet this is who the Smithsonian threw under the bus. They didn't know who he was. They didn't care. They just wanted to make it go away. But imagine this, Jimmy. What if in 1889, when they got that stone into the Smithsonian for the first time and they recognized that it was 1st century Aramaic?
Right.
What do you think would have happened?
Put it in a crate and moved it to a warehouse.
It disappeared.
Exactly.
This one got away from them, and this is the one that we're going to pack up the rear ends. It's one of the most perfect examples. It's one of the crown jewels of artifacts, of pre-Columbian art, and they're still trying to attack it, but they got nothing. And the Tucson lead artifacts are the other ones, the Kensington Rune Stone, the Spirit Pond, the Newport Tower. Hey, the list just keeps growing, and they can't. Look, the toothpaste is out of the tube. They can't put it back, and they're not going to put it back. The truth will come out, and the more people that know about it, and the more people that ask questions and hold them accountable. You guys say you're our nation's museum. You're supposed to be the pillar of science and truth and honesty in our country. Well, then start behaving like it. They would not give me access to study the Bat Creek Stone. I had to go to the Cherokee and ask for them to support me, and thankfully they did.
Now, what did the Cherokee...
why would they stop me? Why would they stop me?
That's right. What did the Cherokee say when they look at it? I mean, it's supposedly, I want to choose my words carefully here, but the Smithsonian, if my memory says, they said, well, that's actually Cherokee. Well, what did the Cherokee say when they look at the
They said it's not our stuff. But I mean, the Smithsonian, don't listen to the Cherokee. You're the one that's going to tell them what their history is, right?
Right.
That's what they do. That's exactly what they do. And the Cherokee, when I told them about it, the elders I met with, they didn't even know about it. And I said, well, it came out of one of your mounds. They said, well, it's a funerary object. It's sacred to our people. I go, yes, it is. Will you support me? I would like to study it. I think I can prove whether it's authentic or not. And they said, absolutely. And they told me some interesting things. They said if the Smithsonian pushes back, they were going to protest in Washington. One of the elders said, we'll load up 2 busloads of Indians. We'll send them down there and they'll protest. He looked at me and said, they don't want that. And they didn't. As soon as they put in the request, they said, okay. But they would not send the stone to my lab in St. Paul. So I said, okay, fine. I will pack up my microscope and I'll come to you. And I did the analysis in their at the McClung Museum at the University of Tennessee.
Well, I have to be. Let me just be very forward here. If the Smithsonian said that it was Cherokee, what did it say in Cherokee? And if it is Paleo-Hebrew, ancient Aramaic, what was the translation in Aramaic? Certainly, it couldn't have said the same thing. So, what did the Smithsonian? I
have never seen a translation, a Cherokee translation.
Right.
The Cherokee says it doesn't mean anything to them.
Right.
In first century Aramaic, it says for the Judeans.
For the Judeans. I thought it said something like praise the Lord or something. I can't remember.
No, well, you know what? I don't know
I can't remember
Aramaic. I just know what I've been told,
yeah.
And that's what I was told, and that's my understanding.
Yeah, don't quote me. I haven't checked out the Bat Creek Stone for a couple of years, but that's
it's amazing, and it's they just don't want to talk about it, and that's what they do. If it's something that they don't have control over and it's going to cause a problem for it, they just don't say anything. Or they send their attack dogs. Hey, can I tell you an interesting story about what I've been through this past 6 months?
Yeah, absolutely. Go. Fly a mission.
So there is a very small group of scholars, like 2, that don't like me because I get more attention than they do for the Kensington Rune Stone.
Okay.
They basically took somebody who will remain nameless, who doesn't work in the industry, has an education in geology, but doesn't work in the industry, and has nothing to lose. And they filed 3 complaints against me in the state of Tennessee for the work I did in the Bat Creek Stone, in our state of Minnesota, and with the American Council of Engineering Companies National in Washington. He filed complaints against me. And I received letters that a complaint had been filed. And it's interesting, I went through all of these boards, and every one of them said, none of this has any merit. We're sorry. We're not taking any action. So I called the licensing board where this person is licensed, and I said, what do you think? Do you consider this harassment? And they said, yes, we do. And I said, do you think it's worthy that I file a complaint so that maybe this person's license could possibly be taken away or they could be reprimanded? They said, you certainly could. I'm not in a position to tell you what the outcome would be, but you certainly could. And then I explained that this person does not work as a professional, that this person has nothing to lose. This person doesn't even have any money.
Right.
So what would be the point of me doing that? Does it make sense for me to get back at this person? And I decided the answer is no.
I was going to say, that's kind of dickish, you know.
Well, look, if you'd been through what I've been through,
Right.
you'd be thinking that way too.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line is that, do you remember the movie North Dallas 40? When Nick Nolte at the end, when he was done,
yes,
and the guy threw the football at him,
right,
and it just bounced off his chest, and he's like, I'm done.
Right.
That's kind of how I am with this. It's like, okay, you can keep trying to stick it to me, but nothing sticks. And but this is, I tell you this because the trolls that come on my blog and give me crap, and the guys that you and I both know we're talking about,
right,
that's just some of what I have to put up with. This is what I also have to put up with. People filing complaints with the Tennessee board because I practiced geology in a state I wasn't licensed in. And technically it's true. But I did it on behalf of a sovereign nation at their request. I didn't get paid a dime. And actually it cost me money to go do that. I paid for my own flight. They didn't fly me there. I flew there myself.
So you have to be licensed in every state as a geologist?
Technically, yes. Technically, yes. It
Really?
depends on what kind of work you're doing. If you're doing for-profit work, you're doing consulting, and specifically the thing that they were that they really pay attention to is, are you doing work that in any way affects the health, safety, and welfare of the public? Now, that was another argument I made. I don't think the Bat Creek Stone is going to affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Right.
I think the welfare of the public, maybe. I think it's important that the truth does come out, but I really don't see that doing gratis work on my own nickel on an artifact like that really met the crossed the line of needing to be licensed in that state. Because normally what happens is people send the samples to me, to my lab, and I do the work in Minnesota.
Oh, makes sense.
So it doesn't make sense for me to go out and get licenses in every state.
Right. It just means that you're too close to the fire, man. That's all it means.
No, that's all right. Listen, bring it.
Yeah.
Because all I can tell you is, you know what they say about paybacks, right? I know this guy. I'll handle him.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, thank you so much, man. Always a great conversation, my friend.
Are we done already?
Well, actually, you know what's funny is we blew past a network break. I ignored that. We were
because you were on a roll.
Yeah, you were, and I didn't want to interrupt. And we're now I'm a commercial segment behind, which doesn't matter.
Make it up, okay?
But no, none of that matters. I don't care.
I know. Yeah, listen, you got to pay bills. You got to do that. And actually, I have to work tomorrow. But I got to tell you, Jimmy, I have so much fun with you. I feel so comfortable just chatting with you because first of all, you're a good dude. You're a smart dude. And I really appreciate your, having me on your show. This is all kidding aside. It's an honor and a privilege, and I really appreciate it. So thank you.
No, thank you, Scott. And again, I'm going to reach out to Xena and see what we can do about that.
She's a wonderful woman, and she's really done a lot of great work. And I really want to respect that this is her research, and I just wanted to throw out a few things to tantalize the audience a little bit to generate some interest. And I'm not trying to poo-poo the Oak Island show. Like I said, I got nothing against the brothers. They seem like good guys, and they're working hard. But I'm really, I know more than I'm telling you, and we'll have to talk about this another time.
Yeah, and we will. I had said this probably 2 or 3 years ago, but if I had the money, this is what I would do with Oak Island. I'm not kidding. I would put a wall around the island, right? Some Army Corps of Engineers kind of levee
retaining
system,
walls,
right? And I would just dig the whole thing up. I'd go down a quarter mile. I would dredge it. I would have
just
barges.
Put it through a giant archaeological sifter, right?
Right. I would have barges and just fill it up. I would move the island. That's what I would do.
You know what? I think they've pretty much done that.
I know.
That's about what's happened.
Thank you so much, Scott. Give my best to Janet and be safe out there and don't ever change.
All right. Well, listen, thanks again, Jimmy. Really appreciate it, and I hope everybody had a good time.
And have a great holiday. Thank you so much.
Same to you, pal.
Scott Wolter, everybody. Scott Wolter's website is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Just go and click on it. And all of the latest research that we were referencing today, not only on the Oak Island map, but on the 90-foot stone and the translations by Jerry Lutkin are all there. It's called Scott Wolter Answers.blogspot.com. Just click on the links over on our site. It'll take you straight there. And it's not only that. Those are the two latest posts there. But it is just a great wealth of information and always a fun read. And a great source for another rabbit hole for all of you. Scott, thank you so much. You are the absolute best. And now I wanted to get to a couple of things really quick before we got out of here. And one of them, I've been talking about, fake news lately and the prevalence of all of that on the net. And then this story popped up earlier this week, which we got up on our Facebook page for Jimmy Church Radio. But it is just an incredible story, which is in Ghana, authorities have arrested members of a criminal network who ran a fake U.S. embassy in the capital of Accra for 10 years. A fake U.S. embassy. I'm talking about a fake flag. I'm talking, a real flag, but a flag that's been a picture of Obama. Apparently, there was somebody that was, I'm assuming, was impersonating the ambassador of the United States. And can you imagine going there? Well, anyway, the number of those who ran the scam has not been confirmed right now, but the gang allegedly charged up to $6,000 for fraudulently obtained but legitimate, real U.S. visas. Now, think about this. Turkish citizens who spoke English and Dutch posed as consular officers in the sham embassy. It was shut down back in August, but it wasn't reported until this past Monday. It was located in a 2-story building with that U.S. flag displayed outside, and the fake embassy was open 3 mornings a week, and it did not accept walk-in appointments. They had flyers all over town. Its services were advertised on billboards and in the Ivory Coast. And the real U.S. Embassy lies in a complex in Cantonments, which is one of Accra's most expensive neighborhoods. And you look at the real U.S. Embassy, which is humongous, right? Couple blocks long, couple blocks deep, nice building. And then you look at the fake embassy, which was this broken down 2-story building. It was just shocking. But this is my point with all of this. Talk about fake news. Now, I'm assuming our embassy is right there. I'm assuming the CIA is part of that embassy and is running around Ghana. I'm assuming that the CIA knew about this place and didn't care and let it run for 10 years. And why was it shut down so suddenly? And it just seems to me that money didn't change hands, or somebody didn't get paid off, or somebody made somebody angry, and they just stepped in and said, okay, we're shutting this place down. But this really happened. It's an incredible story. If you go over to our Facebook page, you can check out the pictures of the embassy. Absolutely nuts. All right. I want to thank Scott Wolter again for coming in. Scott Wolter Answers.blogspot.com. Go there. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black. and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Thursday, John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live. And then open lines all night long. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.